So now that we know the major and minor chords, they only have 3 notes, 1, 3, 5. The difference between major and minor is the note in the middle. And depending on the distance based on the root, we will call them major or minor, but that's pretty much what it is. We know that these groups of notes, they are also called triads, and there are a few things that we can play those triads. We can play as a scale, and we can play them together as a chord. We also know the notes on our fretboard. So I will play a few examples. We will only use one triad because that's a very easy way to understand and visualize the neck. So we will play the triad of C, or C major. So my first note here is C. Then I need to find the third. We already know that it's the E. So I have an E note right here. And then I have the G, which is the fifth. I have the open string. So I can play this 1, 3, 5 as an arpeggio, right? One note at a time, following the same order they appear in the scale, right? So it's 1, 3, 5. And I can play these notes together as a chord. The arpeggio, we can repeat, and we should repeat for the purpose of, mapping the neck and practicing. So what I'm gonna do right now is I will play 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, and go as far as I can. So I'm starting here, 1, 3, 5, then I have 1, 3, 5, and I could do another 1 here, 3, 5, and I don't have a 1, but it should be somewhere around here. So this is the arpeggio of C major. Right? I don't need to go the way. I have another way to play this arpeggio, right? I can start on the same C note. Then I can find the 3 right here, 5, and then 1, and 3, 5, and 1. So this is another shape or another pattern for the same arpeggio. Same notes, same sequence. I can do this a different way. I can start from the 6th string. This is also a C. So I can do 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, right? I can do another way. I can start on the same note right here, and I can do my 3 right here. So 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, and I can do the 5. I can start right here. This is another C. So it can be 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5. This one is the same as the first one we did. So I just did 1, a 2, a different one, and so I did 1, 2, 3, 4 kinds of arpeggios for the same chord, or with the same notes. They are all C major. And the same thing applies to chords. And that's one of the reasons why, some of the first chords we learn is like the C major, and you play like this, right? Why? Because we're playing 1, 3, 5, and then I'm repeating the 1, and I'm repeating the 3. Why is that? Because it's a lot easier for me to play a rhythm or strum a chord if I'm playing a lot of strings and I don't have to avoid strings in between. If I'm doing this, I have to skip the 6th string, the 2nd string, and the 1st string. So it will be a lot harder to be focused in the 3 strings in the middle. So once I repeat these notes and I can play more strings, it becomes easier to play the chords, right? And it sounds better because once you start to repeat like this C, this, the E here, and the E here, once you start repeating the octaves, you start repeating notes on a different pitch, you create some different resonance and different harmonics, and the chord, it sounds a little more pleasant than you doing just a 1, 3, 5. Right? You're still doing just 1, 3, 5, but you're repeating the notes, so you have a little more harmonic content coming out of the instrument. So the difference between arpeggio and chord is you have the same notes, but with the arpeggio, you have to start on the first note, which is the root, followed by the next one in the scale, which is the third, followed by the next one in the scale, which is the fifth, root, third, fifth, root, third, fifth. Same if it was a 7th chord, it would be 1, 3, 5, 7, 1, 3, 5, 7. You cannot change that order. A chord, you're playing the same notes, but the only rule you will have in a chord is that your lowest note, your foundation or your starting point, has to be the note who the chord is named after. The sequence, it doesn't have to follow the same as a coincidence. We have C as the first, followed by E, which is the third, followed by G, which is the fifth, then another C, another E. So here we're kind of following the rule, but I have other ways that I can play the same chord, and technically it will be the same sound, the same chord, but with a different character, because the notes, the way they're interacting, it's different than with this shape. Another way I can play this chord, I can do a C right here, then I can play a G, which is the 5. I can repeat the C, I can have the E right here, and if I lay down my index finger as a bar, I can even play the G note right here on the first string, and this, it's a C major, same as this one. I have another way to do it. I can play the C right here, I can play the E right here, then I have a G. If I do a bar, I have a C right here, an E right here, and I can play another C right here. So this, it's also a C chord. So this, and this. All C major, they all have the same notes, but the way they appear within the pattern, it changed the character of the chord because of the shapes, but our first note, it's always the C. I have another way to do this. I can do my C right here, and then I have the 5 here, I have the octave of C right here, I have the third right here, and if I do a bar with my finger, I can have the G, which is the 5, and the C again, which is the first. So this is another C chord. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have one more. I can play a C right here, G as the 5th, C as the octave or first, and E as the 3rd. This is a C major as well. Once we learn of those chords, and they're all C major, but once we learn the 7 chords within the scale, within the tonal center, you will see that some of these chords, they have, it's like you borrow the shape of a different chord. For instance, if I do the G chord here, this C chord is nothing but this G that is transposed to this pose. This chord, the C major here, is nothing but the E chord that we transposed to the C. This C chord is nothing but the D chord that is transposed. let's get back to the arpeggio, right? As we discussed, you are playing the notes and trying to keep the order the notes appear in the scale. That's why it's considered arpeggio, but you do not have to play that. You can play just 1, 3, 5, and that's the arpeggio. You don't need to play 2 octaves to be considered an arpeggio. What you have to do is to play 1, 3, 5, right? So chords and arpeggios are basically, they have the same notes. The difference is how you approach them, how you play them. You can play as a scale, following the rule 1, 3, 5, and whatever extension or dissonance you have is being asked, or you can just have them together, sounding together as a chord. If I'm going too fast, or if you feel like you're missing something, you're welcome to go back to the past videos and watch it again. Remember, this is part of my free recap for the masterclass. Once you join the masterclass, you have access to the PDF with like the chords and the tablature and all of the support material. I still don't have a way to get a download link in the description of the video, but very soon you will have a way to access the membership area. Even if you register for free in the descriptions of the video. So stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, like, feel free to comment in this video if there's something that it's still not clear, if you want to get a little deeper into the explanation. Once again, I'm assuming a lot of you guys out there already know this because it's basic stuff, but if there's somebody starting from scratch and you understand where we're going so far and you like my style or whatever, my lights, please leave a comment. Feel free to ask a question, maybe some extra material or an extra video. That if you have a question, I'm assuming there's a lot more people out there that will have the same question. And that's it for today, but I hope to see you again in the next video. It's coming up somewhere here. Anyway, thank you.